Welcome to the deep dive, and may God bless your day and the week ahead for you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to get into this one today.
Yeah, me too. I mean, imagine holding a dusty 3,000-year-old list of religious rules.
Right. You'd probably expect to find a really rigid, boring legal document.
Exactly. Something like the terms and conditions you just blindly scroll past on your phone.
Oh, yeah, just click accept and move on.
Right. But what if you realized you're actually reading a masterpiece of modern psychological survival?
That shift in perspective completely changes how we approach ancient literature, doesn't it?
It really does. So our mission today for this deep dive is to unpack how Deuteronomy chapter 6 functions as, well, a foolproof survival guide.
A guide against the human brain's natural tendency to forget its deepest values.
Yeah. And the source materials, the study notes from the Holman and NAA Bibles, they point out this incredible vulnerability.
Which is something we rarely think about, honestly.
Right. It identifies that we are actually most in danger of losing our way, not when we're struggling.
But when life is going incredibly well.
Yes, when things are just easy. But before we figure out how to remember something, we kind of have to know exactly what it is we were supposed to be remembering.
The core code, basically.
Right, the foundation of this entire text.
Yeah.
And that's a concept known as the Shema.
Yeah, which is simply the Hebrew word for hear or listen.
Okay, so just listen up.
Exactly. It's the opening command. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.
To our modern ears, that might just sound like standard theological boilerplate, you know?
For sure. But dropping that statement into the ancient Near East, that was a massive, radical disruption.
Because of all the polytheism, right?
Precisely. The Israelites were completely surrounded by Canaanite cultures that were entirely polytheistic.
You had like gods for the rain, gods for the harvest.
Gods for fertility, gods for war, everything.
Man, living in that hyper-fragmented worldview must have been just exhausting.
It really is. You'd have to appease this whole committee of deities just to get through the week.
Never knowing which one was angry with you today.
Right. It was a life of constant anxiety and divided attention.
Yeah.
And into that fragmented reality, the Shema drops this massive unifying truth.
That there is only one God.
Yes. And because there's only one God, your devotion cannot be divided.
Oh.
It demands a total response.
Which is famously phrased as loving God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength.
Exactly.
Now, when I hear love with all your heart, my 21st century brain immediately defaults to romance.
Oh, of course. Valentine's Day cards, emotional attachment.
Yeah, just a warm, fuzzy feeling. But the notes point out that this is fundamentally a Western modern interpretation, isn't it?
Completely. The ancient Hebrew concept of the heart is entirely different.
How so?
Well, in their worldview, the heart actually encompasses the intellect.
Oh, wow. So it's not just feelings.
Not at all. It includes your capacity for understanding, your logic, your reason. It's the seat of your cognitive choices.
That totally flips the script on the entire concept of devotion.
It really does. It takes it from being this passive, emotional state that just kind of washes over you
to an incredibly active intellectual pursuit.
Devotion in this context is a deliberate cognitive choice. You are actively applying your mind to this relationship.
That is fascinating.
And then the text layers on the soul, which means your entire being and your strength.
And strength isn't just lifting weights, right? The NDV notes had an interesting point on that.
Yeah, in the original language, strength indicates total energy and capacity.
So it's your physical power, your financial resources.
Your sheer force of will, everything you have at your disposal.
It's a total operating system for human life.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, it's not just a background app running quietly while you go about your day. It requires all your hardware.
Every processor, all the memory. The entire system is dedicated to this one unified reality.
It makes perfect sense why Jesus himself cited this exact passage when asked what the greatest commandment of all was.
Right, because it's the kernel of the code, the foundation of everything else.
So, if the human brain is wired to fragment, to divide its attention, and basically to forget this unified devotion,
which we do constantly.
Right. Then the immediate logical problem becomes, how do you build an environment to prevent that?
How do you install this operating system into a community so deeply they never lose it?
Well, the text answers that with an intensely specific pedagogy.
Yes, the methods of teaching it.
It commands the people to teach these words to their children constantly.
And it specifically says to talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk along the road.
When you lie down and when you get up.
Notice the literary device being used there, by the way.
The opposites, right?
Exactly. It's called a merizeming, using a pair of opposites to indicate a totality.
Ah, okay. So sitting and walking basically covers all possible states of rest and motion.
And lying down and getting up covers the entirety of the day and the night.
So it is just a poetic mechanism for demanding total, uninterrupted immersion.
All the time, everywhere. But it goes far beyond just talking.
Yeah, the instructions get incredibly physical.
They do. It commands them to tie these words as symbols on their hands, bind them on their foreheads.
And write them on the doorposts of their houses.
Right. And we actually have an image in the source materials of a Jewish man praying at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem.
Yeah, bringing this exact ancient instruction to life.
You see him wearing phylacteries, also known as tefillin.
Those are the small leather boxes, right?
Exactly. One strapped to his arm and another strapped to his forehead, and they literally contain tiny scrolls of these exact scriptures.
That's amazing.
And then there's also the practice of mezuzahs, which are small cases attached to the door frames of homes containing the same verses.
Okay, but, and I have to push back here a little, strapping a leather box to your head or touching a doorframe all day, doesn't that inherently carry the danger of becoming just a meaningless chore?
A literal box you check off your spiritual to-do list.
Yeah. I mean, how does the text prevent this profound intellectual devotion from just devolving into rote, mindless ritual?
It's a crucial vulnerability, and the text actually addresses it. It states that these words must first be on your heart, meaning internalized in the intellect, before they are bound to the body.
Okay, so the internal reality has to come first.
Right, but the physical objects themselves serve a vital psychological function.
Like a memory hack. The notes mention the old proverb, repetition assists learning.
It's more than just repetition, though. Think about how human autopilot works. Your brain naturally filters out familiar environments to save energy.
Oh, sure. You drive to work and literally don't remember the commute. You just zone out.
Exactly. But when a physical object is bound to your dominant hand, it literally impedes your automatic movements.
Huh.
You can't reach for a tool or open a door with a mezuzah on it without feeling the physical object.
Oh, I see. It acts as a physiological interrupt to your brain's default mode network.
Yes. It creates physical friction, which in turn forces cognitive friction. You are jolted away from your autopilot.
Wow. That constant physical interruption makes perfect sense when you look at the environment the Israelites were about to enter.
The promised land.
Right, because the ultimate threat they were facing wasn't what we would normally expect.
Yeah.
They're standing on the edge of a place famously described with another merism,
A land flowing with milk and honey.
meaning total agricultural richness, the absolute ideal environment.
But the critical detail stressed in the NAA notes here is that this land is a pure gift.
Right, the Israelites are not entering a barren wasteland that they have to tame through backbreaking labor.
The structures of the Canaanites were left intact. The text is shockingly specific about this.
Yeah, it tells them they are inheriting great, beautiful cities that they didn't build,
Houses completely filled with all kinds of good things they didn't provide.
wells that they didn't dig.
And vineyards and olive groves they didn't plant.
It's unbelievable. And following that description comes the most profound warning of the text.
When you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of Egypt.
This whole setup is just like a trust fund kid inheriting a massive, fully furnished luxury estate that they didn't pay a single dime for.
That is the perfect analogy.
Right. They walk in, sit on the designer couch, look around at the manicured lawns, and almost immediately start thinking, wow, look at this incredible life I've created for myself.
And that psychological trap habituation is exactly what the text is targeting. Prosperity, not hardship, is identified as the ultimate threat.
It's fascinating that the text assumes the biggest threat to their survival wasn't starving in the desert.
No, it was getting too comfortable in a pre-built mansion. When you're starving in the desert, you are hyper-aware of your dependency.
Every drop of water is a literal miracle.
Exactly. But when your belly is full and you're living in a furnished apartment, the brain quickly adapts.
The illusion of self-sufficiency takes root. Comfort breeds amnesia.
It really does. And that amnesia leads directly to ideological drift.
Right, because once they forget the God who gave them the land, they will inevitably be drawn to the idolatry of the surrounding nations.
They'll start worshiping the Canaanite gods of rain and harvest just to maintain their newly acquired wealth.
And the text warns that this will provoke the anger of a jealous God, which is a phrase that carries so much modern baggage.
Oh, absolutely. When we think of jealousy today, we think of deep insecurity.
Yeah, we picture a toxic partner checking your text messages or trying to isolate you from your friends.
But in the context of a biblical covenant, God's jealousy is entirely different. It is the righteous protection of a sacred bond.
So, less like a toxic boyfriend and more like a parent who is fiercely jealous for the safety of their child.
Or a spouse who is fiercely protective of their marriage vows. God is jealous for them because he knows that abandoning the unified truth of the Shema,
To chase after fragmented, false idols.
exactly, he knows that will ultimately destroy their society.
Okay, so if comfort causes amnesia and amnesia causes idolatry and destruction, how do you future-proof a society?
That is the million-dollar question.
We have the operating system, the daily physical interruptions, the warning about the furnished apartment. But the final layer of defense this text offers is entirely based on storytelling, isn't it?
It is. It starts with a very specific historical warning in verse 16. Do not put the Lord your God to the test, as you did at Massa.
Which is referencing a deeply embarrassing moment in their history.
Very much so. The notes explain that shortly after being miraculously rescued from slavery in Egypt.
After witnessing the plagues and the parting of the Red Sea, no less.
Right. They are in the desert and they get thirsty. Now, water is a legitimate primal need,
Of course.
but instead of trusting the God who literally just defeated an empire for them, they instantly panic,
They demand water out of a profound lack of trust, essentially putting God on trial.
asking, is the Lord among us or not?
It perfectly illustrates how quickly the brain discards past miracles when faced with present discomfort. It's the ultimate, what have you done for me lately mentality.
It really is. And it's fascinating that Jesus quoted this exact verse during his own desert temptations.
Do not put the Lord your God to the test.
Yes, he succeeded in maintaining trust exactly where ancient Israel failed.
Because that tendency to doubt and forget is just so deeply hardwired into human nature.
Which is why the text offers an ultimate solution for the generations to come, found in verses 20 through 25.
And it revolves around a hypothetical question from a child, right?
Yes. The child asks, what is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you?
Basically, the kid is asking, why do we have to do all this stuff? Why the mezuzahs on the doors? Why all the rules? Why the strict exclusivity?
And notice how the prescribed answer is not a theological lecture.
Right, it's not a philosophical defense of monotheism.
It is a narrative. The text instructs the parent to tell the child a historical story. We were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand.
So they answer a question about rules with a history lesson.
I know, to a modern ear, that feels like a non sequitur.
It really does. Why not just say, because God said so, or because I'm your parent and I make the rules?
Because the text is arguing something profound here. Historical memory, remembering the story, is the actual engine that makes obedience possible.
Wow. It roots the entirety of the law in a specific historical act of rescue.
Exactly. The Holman notes clarify that the text goes on to mention righteousness, saying that if they are careful to obey this law, that will be their righteousness.
Which is a word people often trip over. They assume it means earning your salvation by perfectly keeping a list of rules.
Right, but the rescue, the salvation from slavery in Egypt, already happened.
It was a pure gift of grace.
The righteousness mentioned here is not about earning salvation. It is about living out the correct response to that rescue. It's living in alignment with the covenant.
Because without the story of the rescue, the rules are just an arbitrary burden.
But if you remember the slavery, and you remember the mighty hand that brought you out, then the law becomes a joyful response.
It becomes the boundary lines of a safe, prosperous life.
It shifts the burden of obedience completely. It moves it from fear of punishment to a profound, narrative-driven gratitude.
Man, Deuteronomy chapter 6 really isn't just a list of ancient statutes.
Not at all. It is a masterful blueprint of human psychology.
It recognizes that prosperity makes us incredibly forgetful and vulnerable.
And it counters that vulnerability with total cognitive immersion, daily physical reminders, and intergenerational storytelling.
It really forces us to confront our own psychological habituation.
Absolutely. We are just as prone to the amnesia of the furnished apartment as anyone walking into the ancient Canaanite valleys.
Which brings me to a final thought for you, listening out there, to consider as you go about the rest of your day. Look closely at your own life. What are the unbuilt cities and undug wells that you are currently enjoying?
The comforts you didn't work for.
Exactly. What are the blessings and the privileges that you inherited, that you stepped into, but you didn't actually build yourself? And perhaps more importantly, what are your modern mezuzahs?
I love that question.
What daily, physical, inescapable friction do you have in place to interrupt your autopilot, to make sure you never forget where those blessings came from?
That is something we all need to ponder.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. God blesses all the listeners, and we will catch you next time.